Hello, everyone. Hey, it is super fun to have all three of our faces on here. I feel like you don't always see like live streams with three people, but
who else can we add? I mean, why not?
It's good. Today, everyone, is going to be a really incredible live stream. We're going to be talking about fear. We're going to be talking about the common fears. The reason why these fears are common is because they're common because people actually go through them. And so I'm really excited to chat with today specifically with Erica. Erica is one of our SavvyCircle coaches. She is also a TVS team member here and has joined the team actually one of our newer team members. And we're going to be diving into her story and really just talking about fears associated with not only starting your business, but scaling your business. So if you have faced a fear at some point, you're in the right place because we're going to be talking about it. Now, I feel like I keep going out of screen. I need to scoot this way. Okay. It's hard when you're... Can we like put our faces together and make
I don't know which way to go. This way?
Okay. Before we do that, of course, we have the lovely Rachel on. Rachel is our director of product, and she is going to be fielding questions. So as we go through this, please, let's make this interactive as we always do in these Tuesday live streams. Ask questions. She'll be answering questions in the chat. The team will be answering questions, but then at the end, we'll do a Q&A time too. And Rachel will bring some of your questions forward and we can just answer them here live. Okay. Because our goal is to help you guys. Our goal is to, help you through these different phases of your business so that you can succeed, so that you can build that life, that freedom lifestyle that we always talk about. So super excited for that. Rachel.
Yes.
Thanks for being here.
Yep. I'll see you soon.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, we're talking about facing your fears. But before we jump in with Erica, I do want to remind everyone, as everybody's still coming on, that we do still have our 6 Steps to Scale webinar that's going to be happening coming up next week. And I'm really excited for it. So there actually won't be a Tuesday live stream. It's like one of the only times that we're not going to have a Tuesday live stream because we are blocking off that time to do our special 6 Steps to Scale webinar. So if you are at a point in your business where you do have incoming clients, where you're making money in your business, but you're like, what is next? All right, I've learned how to launch my business. I've been growing it through marketing, but I know it's time to scale. Maybe I'm tired. Maybe I'm overworked. Maybe I'm ready to niche down. Maybe I just want to make more but without working more, right? I want to make more money without working anymore. That's what this webinar is all about. Applications do close. So you have to apply to be a part of the webinar. So you can go to thevirtualsavvy.com/apply. And on Monday at 10 p.m. Central Time is when the applications are going to close. So super excited for that training. Now, Erica's just in here smiling, ready. Let's dive in. Erica, I'm so excited to chat with you today. Why don't we go ahead and just start out with you telling everybody kind of who you are and how you found yourself in the seat that you're in, your journey from starting your business all the way to being on the TVS team.
Okay, yeah. Super excited to be here. So as Abby said, I'm Erica. I started my VA business about 3 years ago now. I started with the Savvy system back when it was the boot camp, went through that, ended up creating my business. I got to the point that I was completely booked out. And at that point, I decided that I really needed to hire a team and just move forward with scaling my business. So we serve primarily MLMs and network marketers. I have a team of 13 people now that work with me. It's been very amazing. So that's awesome. And then recently back when SavvyCircle first started, I came on as a coach. So I've been coaching with that since the very get-go. And then I recently came on to the TVS team as the SavvyCircle specialist. So really excited about that too.
Yes. And so are we, because you are in there every single day, working with people on the exact same journey that you've been through. And what we're talking about today is fear. And, not only fears when launching, but there's fears associated with scaling. I think that sometimes in the beginning of our businesses, when we're first launching, we think, oh, I'm so scared now. But at a certain point, like, I won't have these fears anymore. And I have found that that's definitely not true. Is that something that you've that evolution of fear? What do you see as far as the difference between people in the starting phase of their business as they kind of mature in business? What does that evolution of fear kind of look like?
So I think in the beginning, it's like a lot of the fear of the unknown, right? Like you've never done it before. So you're terrified of like, what happens when I get that first rejection? What happens when I get my first client? Because, oh my gosh, what if I fail and I don't know what I'm doing? That's all just really scary. As you grow, I feel like those fears evolve and change, but they're still there. You still have fears. Still to this day, I get nervous that people will say no to me when I'm on a discovery call. But at the same time, like I know that there are people I will say no to because we're not aligned, and that's okay. I would rather get a no and be able to work with somebody that truly aligns with me than have everybody say yes. So I think you just kind of learn some of those things where you learn that there's a fear there, but it's not always a bad thing to have the thing that you're scared of happen because it just opens space for the thing that is supposed to happen.
Yeah, it's like at the beginning, like the unknown of rejection or whatever is like, or a failure. It's like, oh, what if it happens? And when it happens, it's like, well, it still stinks if it happens again, and it still hurts if it happens again. But at least it's not the unknown. At least you know what rejection feels like.
Not quite so scary.
Exactly, it's not quite so scary. Totally. So I want to, well, first of all, your business has just is such an inspiration, and it really goes to show people how much can happen if you niche down to a specific niche. If you some of the things that we talked last week about, if you get your systems in place, if you get your team in place, if you have the right metrics in place, if you have those things in place, then it really enables you to scale a business. So before we dive into like the top fears, I didn't even warn you I was going to do this, but what would you say has been kind of the biggest fear that you've had to face as you've scaled your business personally?
I would actually say my biggest fear was niching down. That was terrifying to me. I felt like if I niched down and said, I will only work with these people, I was saying no to so many other people. And I felt like there was so much missed opportunity there. My business actually sort of organically niched down without me really realizing that it was happening, just because I started getting referrals for the same kinds of businesses. And then eventually I was like, I'm only getting these anyway, and this is what I enjoy doing. Like, I'm only going to take these clients. And as soon as that happened, I swear to you, my business like doubled. It skyrocketed. So I was kind of forced into facing that fear more so than choosing to, I think. Yeah. But that was my biggest fear. And I learned by going through that there was nothing to be scared of, because it actually like really put me in a much better spot than I thought I was going to be in.
Yeah, I think that's probably true for when I look back at my business growth, I feel like anytime there's been a huge growth season, it's always like I can tie it back to me facing some kind of fear, right? It was like, well, I decided to show up in this way, or I decided to niche down, or I decided to say yes, or I decided to say no, or I decided to take that leap, or I decided to XYZ. And I can pinpoint that was the moment that we had this significant growth. So it sounds like really similar. And for you, it was the niching down, yes, which I feel like is probably a lot of people's story. And Vanessa, also one of our coaches, 100% agree. I had the same fear about niching down in my business. I think that is super, super common fear. So let's dive in. We've kind of gone through, because, Erica, day to day, in with our SavvyCircle students, these are the people who have reached $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 months, but are saying, I am ready for more. I'm ready to work myself out of the business somewhat, right? I'm ready to scale to where I have a team, where I'm not the bottleneck, where it's not all on my shoulders. I'm ready to scale to that point. So she's in there in the day-to-day working with those students that we coach through our SavvyCircle program. And then, on my end, I've been for years talking just to students, coaching, creating programs, all of the things. And through that time, we've identified these are the most common fears that people face, right? These are the fears that in your business you will hit, probably not just once, right? But again, because with every, I think of it like a spiral staircase, like with every, you're going up, and then you see, you're like, wait, this looks familiar. I've faced this fear before, but really you're higher up, right? On that, in that growth ladder. So these are the most common fears that we face. So let's talk about the first one. The first one is the fear of rejection. Anybody resonate with this one? Yes. Yes. I'm raising my own hand right here. Okay. So walk us through, Erica, maybe your own experience with facing this fear.
Yeah, I think, and like I said a few minutes ago, it's something I can still get scared about sometimes when I meet with a new person. When we first decided to niche down in our business and work primarily with MLMs and network marketers, it was really scary for me because I would get on a call and instead of asking somebody what they wanted me to do for them, I started telling them, this is what I will do for you. And that brought a real fear of rejection for me because I'm like, I'm not at the point anymore where I'm saying, what do you need done? I can figure it out. I'll do it. I was at the point where I was saying, this is what I do, take it or leave it. So that became a really big fear of rejection for me because I'm like, oh my gosh, what if that's not what they need? And what if they say no?
What if they do the leave it instead of the take it?
Exactly. But what I had to remind myself was like, what I was offering them is what I wanted to be doing and what I was really good at offering. So just because that didn't align with them didn't mean that it wasn't going to align with the next person. And I'm a firm believer in you have to hear the no's to get to the yeses. So there were those no's, but you know what? Some of the people that have told me no have then sent their friends my way because they know that their friend needs what I'm offering. So it's not always just a no and then that door is closed. It still sometimes opens you up to other things.
So good. Specifically with niching too, I think it's interesting because you said a specific phrase of I knew what I was offering and I knew that's what I wanted to do in business. And I think there's another element to that too of like you knew what you offered worked too. And I think that a lot of times people when they decide to niche down, this is why I tell people to niche down later after you've worked with some people, because you had worked, like people were already sending MLM clients to you, right? Like you knew this is how I work with this specific niche. Here's what will work and here's what won't work for them. And so you could have confidence in the service you offered. So if it's like, this works and this is what we offer, if you reject it, it doesn't mean this thing isn't of value. It just means it's not a right fit for you. Yep. And I think that's where a lot of people get caught up is that they don't have confidence enough in their offer. And maybe that confidence is because you haven't proven the system, right? And maybe you should work with some people first before you decide this is my signature system or whatever it may be. If you actually have confidence in your offer, then it's like the rejection will come, but it won't necessarily like pierce so much, because you're like, I still have confidence in the thing that is here that I've created. So yeah, I just think that that's a really interesting tying it to your niche in general, and that like, okay, the thing I'm offering is still worthy no matter what. Yes. Where have you seen this play out in some of, again, you're in there every day coaching our SavvyCircle students. Is this something that you're seeing them face as well? Has it looked a little different?
Yeah, I think we definitely see that within SavvyCircle. So like a lot of our students have a really big fear with showing up on social media. Like that's one thing that they're like, man, I've never shown up on my social media. It's terrifying for me to do that. Or even like reaching out once they figure out what their niche is, what their offer is going to be. They get really scared of like, what if somebody says no to my offer? What if this thing that I've worked so hard on, my baby that I've created, somebody doesn't want it? So it's been a really big thing for us. But a lot of our students have seen so much success with creating their signature offer and just going with it. And they definitely get the no's, but that's okay because again, those are the clients that are not aligned with them. They're not meant to work together. And that's completely fine because then they do find those clients that they are meant to work with. And those clients don't say no. Those clients are very aligned with the offer that they have. And we've had really great success. I mean, we've had students that have sent massive packages out to people and they put themselves out there. Even when they're scared, they're like, I'm going to put this out there. I'm going to send this package to them. I believe in what I'm offering, so I'm going for it.
So good. I was like thinking about this. What do you think? I didn't prepare you for that. These are on the fly questions, but I was thinking through, I'm like, what do you think is the root of the fear of rejection? Like, why do we even get scared of it? You know?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think anybody likes to hear no, like when you
Yeah.
want something, you want it. You don't want to be told you can't have it. So I don't know, but I mean, and there's money tied to it, which I think probably that plays into it. You want somebody to say yes to that $1,000 a month or whatever it is. And it doesn't feel great when they say no, but there's someone else down the road that is going to say yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I think that you're like, just because somebody rejects your offer doesn't mean they're rejecting you either, and that's where it comes to like, how do you counteract, like, how do you counteract rejection? I think it's confidence. Like you were saying, if your fear is like, okay, I'm afraid to show up on social media. Well, what are we really afraid of? Well, maybe I'm afraid that people will like not like me or make fun of me or whatever. It's like, well, if you have confidence, then like, who cares? Like, it's always the people on the sidelines. It's always the people in the crowd. It's never the people on the or on the field hurling like the insults. It's always the bystanders. And so, like, just if you're out there and people are rejecting you, it means that you're in the game, right? Like it means that you're in there actually doing something. So I think that's a big deal. And confidence in your offer is huge. Yeah. Okay. So number 2, fear of failure. So this looks a little different than fear of rejection. So how would you define fear of failure and how do you see this kind of played out?
I think fear of failure is completely different because you're not scared of somebody saying no. You're, I guess, more so scared of everybody saying no, like scared that your business is just not going to work. And you're not going to be successful. So I think we see this a lot in SavvyCircle too, because people are niching down. They are creating that signature offer and they're going with one specific thing. And I think when you change your business model like that, there is the fear of what if this doesn't work? What if nobody wants to buy this offer that I've put together? What if I don't find clients in this industry that I've decided I'm going to work with? But I think most of our students pick stuff based on what they've been doing. And so they already know people in that industry. They're just really honing in on what it is that those people need. And they're creating an offer based on that. So the fear of failure is there. But I think it's something that is easy to overcome because they will quickly see that people do need what they're offering. And that's why they created it.
Yeah, 100%. I think there's also an element of like fear of rejection is like, what if they don't like, or what if they say no to what I'm presenting? And fear of failure, a lot of times how it's displayed in my life has been, what if I don't live up? Like, what if I sell the thing? It's like the fear of rejection is like, what if they say no? Fear of failure is almost sometimes like, what if they say yes? Yeah. What if I don't actually live up to the challenge, right? What if I don't get them the results? Or what if I can't complete the task? Or what if I'm just not enough to like run this thing?
Yes, 100%. And I think when I think about that, like as I was scaling my business, it kind of I like to go back to the very beginning. I had that fear in the very beginning when I first started, like, what if I can't do this? But I got my first client and I did it. And then I got my second client and I did it. So, when you're scaling, I think you have that fear too, but you have to look back at your entire journey and be like, okay, I have feared failing before, but I didn't fail. I figured it out. I got it done. My clients are happy. That's why I'm at the level that I'm at. It's why I'm ready to scale and able to take this step. So there's still fear there, but like, does there need to be? Because you know what you're doing. You should have confidence in that.
Yep. It really is. It's so much, it's confidence and it's truth. I think that's you guys have heard me do this analogy before. So my apologies if you've heard it in the past, but I feel like so much of why fear is so scary is because it's looming. It's this feeling of like, it's behind me. And it's just this like, it's this feeling of like, oh, what if? And sometimes what I have to do is literally take all the what ifs, put it right in front of my face and say, okay, what if? Like, what if they say no? This is a very, like, this could happen, right? Or what if I mess up? Like, is my worth tied to that? No. Is that, if I fail in this one aspect of business, does my entire business fail? No. Like sometimes I have to actually walk myself through those what if scenarios, partially because I'm a realist and I'm just like, all right, let's just do it. What if this really does happen? Let me list it out. And come to the place where it's like, oh, the thing I'm scared of really isn't that scary. And I think that's what you were talking about earlier, where it's like over time, it's not that you become numb to it. It's just like after experience, your skin just gets tougher, I think. I mean, that's a big thing in business. Like you will develop some tougher skin. And I would not naturally say I'm a tough skinned person. So trust me, if I can do it, you can too. But like you do, it's like over time, you're just like, okay, I can resist this because I know that this thing hitting me isn't going to break me because I have confidence in like who I am.
Yeah.
There was, Nicole was mentioning what Thais says, we're afraid of rejection because we're tying our value and worth to the outcome. In business, we have to detach ourselves from the outcome, which is so true. It's like, just because they say no to my offer or just because I mess up doesn't mean I'm a mess up, right? Just doesn't mean they're rejecting me, just not a right fit. Yeah, here's Tanya saying, I'm a realtor, don't love the sales side. I want to support realtors, but fear that they may think I really don't know what I want to do. Is she confused? Maybe I am to some degree. And that's where I think that so much of the in when you're first starting your business, you kind of do have to do all the hats, and you sometimes do have to live a little bit in the things that aren't your strengths, but then like as quickly as possible. And that's what we talk about a lot in in SavvyCircle, is how do we outsource the things that aren't our strengths? Because you don't need to be strong in all the things. Like if you're like, I'm not good at sales, I don't like sales. Okay, then like your first hires in your business, once we get the ball rolling a little bit, like how quickly can I get more salespeople on my team, right?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. And that's a big thing too. I definitely outsource everything I don't want to do or I'm not good at doing. And I think that helps with the fear of failure too, right? Like I'm not so scared that my business is going to fail in that area. If I know I have a good person working in that area that can handle it, that person is not always me, but I know that I have somebody there that can handle that piece of it.
Yep. Your weaknesses aren't your weaknesses. They're an opportunity for somebody else's strength.
Yes.
All right. Anything else tied to the fear of failure that you want to mention? Any like examples that you've seen or like ways that you've seen this overcome that you think is unique or helpful to people who are maybe facing this right now?
I don't know. I mean, like I was saying, I think we see it all the time in SavvyCircle, but I will say, like, I think that our students and the community that we have does a really good job. Like, everybody's so supportive that it's like you get scared that you're going to fail, that your offer is not going to be good enough, but you've got this whole community of people there that are backing you and telling you, you've got this. Like, I think your offer sounds great. If I were in that industry, I would absolutely go for that. And we've even had, like where some of our students will say, hey, you know what? I actually think you can ask for a higher price point on that offer that you have because you've got something of real value here. So I think there's a lot of power in that too. And just having that community that is going to lift you up and make you feel less afraid of failing.
So good. I was, even before I was like sitting eating lunch before we got on this call, and I was thinking about not just this, but like fears in business, problems in business, all the things, and just like the element of like gratitude also, because if you really pull back 360 degrees, like you are fearing, maybe you're fearing niching down, right? Or you're fearing raising your prices, or you're fearing whatever this like fear. In fact, if you know what yours is, like drop it in the comments. I would love to hear. But like, it's like you feel it so deeply when you're in it. You're just like, oh, this makes me sick of my stomach. I'm fearing that tough conversation I have to have. I'm fearing hiring somebody because I'm afraid I'm going to make a mistake, whatever, right? Pull back, 360 degree bird's eye view. Like, how amazing that you have these fears. Like, how amazing that you're facing these problems in your business. Because if you were to pull yourself a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, like, you wouldn't have imagined that you'd have these fears or that you'd had these problems, right? Like, I'm so scared of raising my prices. Like, well, how amazing that you're at a point in your business that you're like, I've got to raise prices because I have so much demand, or I know I'm ready to, I'm making 2,000 a month. I want to make 5,000 a month, and this is going to enable me to get there. And like, how amazing that you have those fears. Like, and I think there is sometimes an element of like gratitude that can actually help get us through the fears too, of just, okay, like, yes, this is scary, but it's also amazing. Like, it's also like something to be really proud of, that I even have these fears to face
Absolutely.
at all.
Yeah. And it's like, they always say like growth doesn't come from being comfortable. Like I think if you look at any big business or any successful CEO, like everything didn't come easy to them. They weren't just sitting there having things fall into their lap. Like they definitely faced fear of failure too, but they kept pushing forward. And I think that's just, it becomes a decision you have to make, right? Like, am I happy sitting where I'm at and having what I currently have? Or do I want to face this fear of failure and move forward, knowing that the potential is there, but I'm going to work as hard as I possibly can to make sure that it doesn't happen.
So good. So good. All right. So let's go on to the third one. The third one is fear of perfection, and, or like lack of perfection, maybe. I don't know if that's the best way to phrase it, but I can definitely raise my hand to this one. I feel like this is something that I face a lot in business, where it's just like, I don't want to release something if it's not perfect. I don't want to release an imperfect thing, or like it's not ready. It's not ready. I think that's like what people who, this is the fear that they face a lot. That's like what ruminates in their head is, oh, it's not ready yet. It's not quite ready. It's not quite ready. And so, is this something you've dealt with, or have you seen this students in SavvyCircle deal with this?
Yes. I think where I felt it more, and where I feel like the students feel it a lot, is not necessarily tied to ourselves. It's tied to the point that we are ready to hire a team. And it's a fear of like their perfection almost. Like, I know that I can do this really well, but if I hire a team, can they do it really well? Like, I know that my clients are happy with the services that I'm offering, but once I have someone else come in and help me with those services, will that perfection still be there? Will it still be as good of like an offer or as much value as they're currently getting as soon as someone else is in the picture? So I think that's something that we see a lot in SavvyCircle, is just, it's like a kind of a control thing, like when it's in my control, I'm good with it. As soon as someone else is in there, that's when it gets scary.
Okay. So you team of 13 over there, you've been through this. So how have you been able to conquer that fear? And has that fear been like validated at any point? Like they didn't do it as good as me. Crap. Now it's true.
Yes.
What is that like?
Yes. So I think I've been all over the spectrum of this. Like, I've definitely had to let people go on my team that just, they weren't a good fit and they did not produce the quality work that I would expect. But I think in every one of those scenarios, when I look back, I can honestly say I knew from the very first meeting that I had with them that it wasn't a 100% fit. I wasn't 100% sold, but I moved forward anyway. So now I've kind of learned that if I'm not 100% sold, I don't move forward, because there's a hesitation there for a reason. And it's not that they're bad VAs or that they don't do good work. They just aren't necessarily aligned with exactly what we're doing. And that's okay too. It's the same as a client not being aligned sometimes. Like, sometimes it's just not a great fit. I would say, like, being really sure on what you want, knowing the culture of your business, and knowing this is what my business is, this is what we believe in, this is who we are, what we value, what we offer, and then finding people that really align with that. Getting really specific when you're hiring someone on your job posting and saying, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Leaving no room for questions on like, well, maybe this would be okay, maybe this wouldn't. Like, really honing in on exactly what it is that you want, I think helps a lot with getting the right people in. And I think just having an open conversation with them when you are interviewing them and thinking about hiring them, you can get a really good feel for somebody just from doing that and knowing like, okay, this is how they're interacting with me. How would they interact with our clients or other people on the team? That can be really beneficial too. So, and I've had situations too where I hire someone on and maybe they're not doing great where they're at, but I can see like, they're not doing awesome with this, but I think they'd be really good at this. So it's just a shift, and then everything changes and you're like, okay, this person is rocking it now. Like, that is where they were meant to be. So there's definitely fear in all of that, I think. But I think as long as you really know exactly what it is that you're looking for, exactly what it is that you need, you can overcome that.
100%. And I'm same with you when it comes to hiring for sure. I think with every, um, I mean, perfection is never 100% attainable anyways. Like it's nothing we can spend our whole life trying to make something absolutely perfect. And it literally just you'll look at the thing that you did and that you're like, oh yay, it's finally perfect. It's so good, it's so good. And you'll look 5, 10 years later and be like, oh, that's terrible. It's like there's never an actual perfection, number one. And even when it comes to hiring, like I think that every time that we've had to, it's really scary. Like we talked about fear of rejection, like there's also the other side of it, like, oh, what if or maybe it's failure, I don't know. When it comes to hiring, it's like, what if I don't do it right, and what if it doesn't work out? And it's part of that tough skin process where I think I I get really in my head if we have to let somebody go. But there is an element that like I learn every time. If there is somebody that you have to let go of, then you immediately, at least like I do, I immediately go back to the hiring process. Okay. Because was this just not a good role? Like, did their strengths not line up, or was this not a good culture fit, or what could we change in the hiring or the onboarding or the managing process that would have not led to this scenario, And so you get fear of perfection. It's like, well, that's great to want to be perfect, but you actually need the mistakes because that's what's going to make you better. And so we can't be always striving for complete perfection, because then you're never going to make the mistakes to actually grow. It's
absolutely. And you learn a lot from mistakes. I mean, you really, really do. Yeah. So I completely agree with that. One thing I will say is, like, something I love about SavvyCircle again is that we do walk you through a lot of the things that would probably be the fear. So like when I first onboarded somebody, SavvyCircle wasn't a thing. Otherwise I would have totally bought it. But like, I didn't have an onboarding process. I basically threw them to the wolves and I was like, figure it out with me because I don't know what we're doing here. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of like fear of failure, fear of perfection, all of that, because I had no idea what I was doing. But SavvyCircle does a really great job of having you set up that onboarding process and all that stuff prior to hiring someone, so you don't necessarily have that fear. So I think that can be really beneficial too. And I think the other thing is just remembering that your business is never going to be 100% done, right? Like you're never finished growing. You're never finished changing. Like things are always evolving and changing, and you're going to do things differently next week than you did this week. Like that's always going to happen. So, there's like this fear of perfection, but you also have to accept that things will change, and you just got to kind of roll with the punches and figure things out as you go along sometimes too.
100%. I think there's something really powerful you said too about like, hey, there's other people in there rooting you on. And I think that that's when we look at each one of these, like the three most common fears: fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of perfection. I think that the biggest thing is that these are common fears, right? Like these are the fears that are normal to have. So there's an element where you don't need to beat yourself up that you're having them, or feel like you're less because you're having them, or feel like it's actually common to have these fears. And so what do you do with it then? It's like, cool, it's common, but then what? Well, you dive into community or you dive into resources. And that's why we are an education company. I mean, it's the reason why we do what we do is it's, hey, we've been here before. We know what's on the other end. Like, guys, on the other end is this true freedom lifestyle. Is this where you get to be in control of your financial destiny, where you get to have this life that doesn't look like what the world told you were supposed to have, right? Like, yes, you can be the stay-at-home mom and make money. Yes, you can be there when your kids get off the bus, or you can go to their school events. Yes, you can, travel the world while you're working. Whatever your why is, like, it doesn't have to look like what the world told you it's gonna look like. It can be whatever you freaking want it to be. Yep. And so it's like, here's the destination. We know how to get you there. It's these step-by-step processes. So let us educate you on the processes, and then also give you the community to to make it happen together so you don't feel so alone. Because the worst thing about any of these fears, fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of perfection, is that you feel like you're just doing it alone. It's just like, oh, I'm the only one. It's just me. I'm the only person that has this fear. And it's just not true, right? Like, it's just not freaking true. So, sorry, I had to get on a little soapbox there, but I think that that is so much the value of not just following a proven system. I mean, anytime I've ever made huge growth strides in my business, it's because, hey, here's somebody who's been before me. Let me follow their course or their coaching or whatever. Like I'm a course creator and a coach. So I'm always in a course or in a coaching program myself because I believe in it. And so here's this proven system, but then here's also the community of people who have been there and done it before. So that community is what you're in every single day, Erica. And what's been your biggest like takeaway or aha moment of like being inside of that community, and like seeing it actually in action?
I think it's really great to be a part of the community and watch the students, because so many of them, like, they have these goals when they come in. Like maybe they're at $2,000 a month and they're like, I want to hit $10,000 a month. That would be so meaningful for my family. And watching them hit that $10,000 a month for the first time is so exciting, because they're like, wow, it actually happened. And I think like in their heads, they wanted it to happen, but I don't know that they truly believed that it would. Yeah. Like, I think there again was that fear of failure. And they're like, well, it'd be a nice goal, but like maybe I'll get there someday. I don't know. So when they do, you're just like, oh my gosh, it happened. They have so much clarity. They know exactly what they do, who they serve. They're hitting this 10,000 a month. And now that they've hit it, they know that they can go bigger than that. They're like, what's 10,000? I'm going for 15,000. I'm going for 20,000. And that's really awesome to see. And they're doing it together. Like they've built this community of people where they can, talk to other people, get ideas from other people. They can talk to the coaches. All of us have built our businesses, scaled our businesses. But we all have really, I would say, diverse backgrounds, like where our businesses are in completely different areas. We've done different things. We've taken different steps. So there's so much knowledge and power that it comes from that knowledge, with like being able to share that with them and then being able to take what works for them. Like maybe what I say doesn't resonate with them, but what Thais says does resonate really well with them. So they've got all this different expertise that they can pull from. And I just think it's really powerful to be able to watch them hit those goals that they've been trying to hit within the community.
Yeah, that's totally like, it's the celebration aspect, right? Like because let's be real, and maybe let me know in the comments if you faced this before. It's like something really amazing happens in your business. Like you sign like a $3,000 a month client or a $10,000 a month client, or you make some huge stride in your business. You gave yourself your first huge paycheck, or you paid off some debt with your business or something. You make this huge milestone, especially financial. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm so proud of myself. And then you're like, who do I tell this to? Like, I know I've faced that several times in business where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. And I don't know who to tell, because I just feel like my friends won't get it. And people think I'm like bragging, or that I don't know, like there's like these weird things, especially tied to like monetary financial wins, where we're just like, oh, yay. And now I have no one to tell, because they just don't get it. Like people just don't get it. Right. And so I think that is such a huge value too in the community, is not just the fears and the hardships and the, hey, I'm feeling this too, but also the congratulations. And like, we get it. We get how much hard work, or we get the fears you had to face to get to that point. And it's a big deal. So thanks for bringing that element up too, about the community aspect. So what I would love to do is let's do a Q&A time, because we love to end these off with a Q&A. So if you have questions for myself, for Erica, we'll bring Rachel back on too. And let's just hang out for a little bit and you can ask questions. We are right now really, really getting as many people as we can into the 6 Steps to Scale webinar, because scaling means facing these fears in a new way. It is, you've faced some of the fears of launching your business. You've gotten out and you've gotten your first client and you were over that hump, but now there are new fears. There's a fear of hiring your first contractor. There's the fear of, niching down or raising prices. And we want to talk about it. And so this 6 Steps to Scale webinar, it's happening next week. You can go to the virtualsavvy.com/apply. You do have to apply to be a part of the training, only because we are trying to get a cultivated group of people who, again, can share in the same struggles. There's a lot of you guys that are still maybe in the launch phase of your business. That's totally fine. We have trainings and things for you guys as well. Don't worry. We have communities for you as well. This training is for people who are making, I think it's $2,000 a month, right? Is the cutoff that we put in your business. And you're like, and now I'm ready for the next step. So if that is you, make sure it's a free training, but we want to make sure that you apply because applications do close on Monday at 10 o'clock Central Time. So go ahead, get your application in today. That way we're able to review it and get you all set and ready for that live webinar that's happening next week. Awesome. Let's do a Q&A time. What questions do you have? Go ahead and drop them in the comments and we will bring Rachel back on to answer those questions with us. Hey, girl.
Hey. There's been such I'm trying to think of the word, positive, supportive vibe happening inside of the comments, and people get it. Our coaches have been inside there, and several of you that are joining. Thanks for joining us today. But it's been a super supportive, encouraging vibe inside of the comments, which is super fun. One thought that I wrote down before we jump into some of the questions was, I think facing our fear, and I love that you said fixing your fear too at the end, Abby, that was really good, is so important. But even before that, we have to be able to name our fear.
Mm-hmm.
We've named 3 of them today for you and walked through them in such a really, really good way. But unless you're able to claim it and say, I'm afraid of this, and y'all be real specific. The more specific that you can get, that's when you're going to be able to make a plan and face that fear and fix that fear in the moment. So I would love for those watching, even our team members, what are you afraid of today? What fear are you facing? And let's all name it, because until we name it, we can't face it and we can't fix it.
Yep. So good. I can go. I'll share mine. One of my reoccurring ones is I'm not going to be able to do it all. I'm not, I fear of failure is usually the one that I deal with the most. And I'm juggling a lot of plates. They're all spinning, keep them spinning, keep them spinning. And then, oh no, one's going to drop, And I think there's always a truth associated with that fear. And it's okay, so what does that fear tell me? That fear tells me that I'm probably doing too much. That is almost always the reoccur. I'm cool, I get to learn this lesson again. Awesome. Yeah. I've done that one before, but it's almost always true where it's just if I feel like I'm spinning too much and doing too much, and I'm afraid of one of those balls dropping, it's probably because I need to let one of them drop. And there's always a lesson. And I think, who was it? There was somebody in the comments. Yeah. Sarah Davis over on YouTube said, failures always teach us more than our successes. And it's sometimes you got to let the ball drop. Sometimes you got to fail, because it's oh, that actually feels really nice to let that fall and be it was okay. I'm still alive. I'm still here if I failed in that way. So yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Abby. Erica, name your fear.
Oh God.
Oh, you're putting us on the spot, ladies. Let's go.
She's I'm never going live with you guys again.
I would say within my business right now, we're actually expanding into a new sector. And so fear of failure for me, definitely, because it's something I'm not super familiar with. We brought somebody else in, and she's kind of running it. And so fear of losing control, first of all, giving it to her and trusting her to take it and run with it. And for us to be successful in it, because again, I know nothing about it. So I'm this is terrifying for me, but we're gonna go with it.
It's interesting. Mine's I'm fear of dropping the ball. It's maybe you should drop the ball. And you're I'm fear of losing control. And it's maybe you should lose control. It's our fear is actually an indicator of what we need to do. I love it.
I think mine resonates with both of what you ladies are saying, but I'm going to extend it past business and employment and sneak it over into like even personal life. Like I have so many plates spinning. I can totally resonate that with being a mama of 3, being a wife, being a friend, being a coach, being an employee, being a director. Like I can keep going, right? Like I don't want any plate to fall and shatter. Like I want to be successful. I want to be a good friend. I want to be a good mama. I want to be a good wife. I want to be a good director, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'm afraid that something I'm going to do is going to cause failure and that plate is going to fall and shatter. But I think even when a plate falls, I've got 2 feet. I can catch one, you know? And if it shatters, maybe there's purpose in that. Maybe there is purpose in it shattering and falling and breaking and me failing, because absolutely, I totally agree, is there's so much learning and even growth and improvement that can happen even when we fall and fail. So good. Okay. Shall we get to some questions?
Let's get to some questions.
Yes. Okay. So I saw several questions come through. Like, what are some practical ways that we can face our fears? Okay. We've named them. We've identified what our fears are, but are there any like practical exercises or tips or things that you ladies have that we can use when those fears come up for us?
Good question. I'm always a fan of journaling. Journaling is like my centering place. Like I am just a better person after I journal. So, and I've shown you guys maybe in the past this, but I always have just like a blank notebook with me all the time. And I will literally sometimes have to draw like a line down the middle and write my fear. I can't do this upside down and backwards. Fear. It looks
another
girl Sandra wrote that. Okay, so it's ugly. Fear's supposed to be ugly. Okay, so I'll write the fear on this side, and then I literally will draw a line, and on this side, I'm not going to write it, but write truth. Right. And so I will like list out and I'll let myself like sit in the fear a little bit. Like, let me sit in it and feel it. And like really, because sometimes I'm not very good at feeling my feelings. And so I will like, let me sit in it. Let me like feel the weight of it. And I'll feel my feelings. I'll feel like this is what I'm actually afraid of. And then I have to combat it one by one. Like, what is the truth in this situation? And so it's like, I'm scared of messing up. Like I'm scared someone will hire me and I will do something that will like break their business. And then like, what's the truth? Okay. Your one mistake probably isn't going to completely break their business and be the downfall of the entire thing. The truth is I might make a mistake. The truth is, even if I make a mistake, even if that client fired me, worst case scenario from that mistake, like I still have value. I still can run a successful business. I can learn from my mistake and move on. And so I like have to face it with the actual truth of the situation. Yeah, that's my little exercise.
Yeah, I love that exercise, Abby. Erica, anything to add? Any tips, tricks, exercises you have in your back pocket?
For me, I think I have to like literally face the fear to overcome the fear. Like I have to just go for it and prove to myself that like it wasn't as scary as I thought it was. That's really like, I don't do well with like any like other ways of doing it. I think I just have to like run full speed ahead and be like, okay, we're going to do this thing and see what happens. And then, you know, the more you do it, the easier it becomes because you're like, okay, like you're scared of discovery calls, but you do the discovery call and you're like, okay, that wasn't so bad. Let's do another one. And eventually you're like, this is easy. I could do this in my sleep. So I think for me, it's just like putting myself in that situation and facing the fear.
That's
what
good.
Ruth Sukup, right? She says, do it scared.
Yes.
Like such a good motto. You kind of have to, I don't know if there's a single entrepreneur that can't, that like, I don't know if you can be an entrepreneur and not embrace do it scared.
So true. I mean, we used the term, or we said the term earlier, fix the fear. Doesn't mean that it's going to permanently go away. Like these fears are going to come up over and over and over again, and they may look different, but in the same form, right? These are the 3 most common ones because they come up all the time, and no matter what phase of your business you're in, and even multiple times within that same phase of business. That you're in, for sure. All right. Those are good tips, ladies. Vanessa asked in the comments, how do I know I'm ready to scale?
That's a great question. You want to take that one, Erica?
Sure. So I think when you are maxed out, like you're feeling burnt out, you've got all the clients that you can handle, but you really still want to earn more. Like you can't physically on your own take anything else on, but you're not at the income level that you want to be at. Your businesses, you want to continue growing. I think that's how you know you're ready to scale and go to the next level.
Yeah. And you can also check out, we've had 2 previous lives the past 2 Tuesdays in our burnout series, right? And we kind of address some of that too. You can check out those replays. And we talk about what it looks like to get stuck inside of your business. And Abby and I talked through that. So you can check out those replays. And then if you're at that point, like you're ready to scale, we are here to help you. Like, that's why I love that you said that, Abby, is that we are here to teach you and support you. I wrote down a quote and it talked about you, like you were talking about our people and creating their own businesses. And you said, it can be whatever you freaking want it to be. Like, absolutely it can be. And we want to help you get to wherever freaking place you want to get to.
Yeah.
And we want to support you. So anyway,
I want to mention one thing too, that that I've seen a lot of people at this stage. Like if you're at this point, there's a reason why we called this the burnout series, right? Is because if you're at a place where you're ready to scale, what got you from 0 to 2K months, whatever, it's probably a lot of freaking hard work and a lot of hustling and a lot of late nights and a lot of sacrifices and a lot of just working harder and harder and harder. And I think people get scared, talking about fears. I think people get scared that they're like, I can't work any harder. Like I get like, if scaling means working harder, then I don't want to do it, you know? And I just want to reassure anybody that like what happens from like the growing to the scaling process actually isn't working harder. It's actually starting to do less, and it's starting to hone in on what you are actually got, and it's building a team to carry the load with you. And it's actually like, that's why I love talking to people in the scaling phase so much, or who are preparing for the scaling phase, because I'm like, just hold on, like there is some more work. Like don't let me just think like now it's just easy, right? Like there is more shifts, and there's even work in letting go, like letting go of things. Erica, like talking about like some of the control stuff, like that is part of the work. It's just like letting go, and I can't do it all, you know. But I'm telling you, the freedom part of the freedom lifestyle we teach comes in the scaling, where it's like, okay, now I can actually have time for the why. Like the scaling is like, I've been hustling. And now I can take a real freaking vacation because my business can run without me and I'm not the bottleneck. So that's what we're talking about here. So just don't be afraid. Like what I don't want happening is anybody getting stuck, being afraid to scale because they're like, I just don't have enough in me. Like that's actually, you're at the perfect place if that's how you feel right now.
Yep. Yeah. And you said earlier too, when you were talking, Abby, is that we've seen the other side. Like we know what the other side of the mountain looks like once you get past that scale phase. And you alluded to it too in your answer just now. One of the things that we want to help you through when you're scaling is that niching down and systematizing your business. How can those 2 particular items help us with even what we talked about today? Niching down and systematizing. How do those 2 things help us face our fears and work through our fears? Any thoughts on that?
Do you have one, Erica?
Yeah. So I think that when you niche down and you systematize, you become an expert in what you're doing. And I think that within doing that, there's a lot of power behind that. And so you don't necessarily have those fears as much anymore because you know exactly what it is that you're doing. You don't need to be scared of those things anymore because you know that you've got this.
Yeah. So good. And I think too, inside of that webinar that we're going to do next week, and if y'all haven't applied, I've been seeing applications come through as we're chatting. It's so fun.
Yeah, I think we have over like 100 applications, right? Yeah. Or 100 accepted so far. That's awesome.
Yeah, over 100 applications have come through, and I'm watching them. I've even hit approve on a few while we've been sitting here. someday, maybe. But yeah, like inside of that webinar, we're going to walk through our steps in what it looks like to scale, and talking about niching down, and talking about systematize your business, talking about hiring. I know that came up several times inside of the comments today too, like that fear of hiring that first person, that first contractor. We're going to walk through all of that inside of that webinar. So if you are at that scaling phase and getting ready to approach that, hit that apply, let us know, and we would love to have you inside of our webinar next week.
Yep, 100%. virtualsavvy.com/apply. We are so excited for you guys. Applications do need to be in by Monday at 10 o'clock Central Time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us again. And Erica and Rachel, thank you, of course, for being here. And we will see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.